What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you, and one that we've been anticipating because we are longtime fans of this band, and, well, listening to music is a great distraction from the world's dumbest Twitter war going on right now. So we are going to go over the latest offering from Katatonia, Nightmares as Extensions of the Waking State. This comes out on the 6th of June on Napalm Records. This band formed in 1991 in Stockholm, Sweden. This is their 14th or 13th album. I guess there's like an album of re-recordings. I mean, maybe it counts, maybe it doesn't. Either way, I have been a fan since The Great Cold Distance. That was my first exposure to this band.
Yep.
Instant fandom, and went back and checked out all their earlier stuff. Loved most of that stuff too. We've actually reviewed their last two albums here on the channel, City Burials and Sky Void of Stars. Sky Void of Stars was a year-ender for both of us, and one of the main reasons I was pretty hyped about this one. That, and, well, there's some other reasons. This is the first album without founding member and longtime guitarist Anders Nystrom, who left the band earlier this year, and who doesn't appear at all on this album, nor did he appear on the last one. In fact, the last two albums have been pretty much just Rent's writing. Now, City Burials, I believe, was intended to be a Jonas Rent's, solo project, but it just, ended up becoming a Katatonia album. But Sky Void of Stars was a full-on Katatonia album. Like, that was the intention outright. And while, Anders was a part of the band at the time, and I believe they still toured on it, he did not have any writing credits at all in the last one. So there were some, question marks I did have about this. I mean, while Anders wasn't a part of the last two, he's been a huge part of this band's sound overall in terms of crafting it, the evolution of it over the years. And I don't know, I kind of just wondered about this one in general because we have some flat out new members on here too. And, well, would this still sound like Katatonia, or would it be something kind of different, or like, finally Rentz has total control and he's pushing the band in a different direction? Those questions may or may not have been answered on here.
My introduction to this band is pretty much roughly the same, almost verbatim. I also got into them with The Great Cold Distance, and yes, we reviewed the last two albums. And yes, Sky Void of Stars was on my year-end list. I too wondered what would change in this band with the departure of pretty much a founding member of it, and a guy that has had so much to do with the overall sound of this band and how it's progressed over the years. And we were sitting at his mom's house eating dinner, and we listened to Wind of No Change. And I remember thinking that it sounded a little bit heavier, but overall, that lead single to me wasn't enough really to form an opinion other than, hey, this sounds like Katatonia.
Yeah, I mean, inevitably with, Jonas Rent's vocals on pretty much anything that has a gloomy, kind of doomy sound overall, it inevitably kind of just sounds like Katatonia because his voice is like such a huge factor in there. But like I said, this one is different, and I mean, I would say part of it is definitely due to Anders' lack of presence on here. In fact, they had two guitarists to replace him. They got one Nico Elgstrand, formerly of Entombed AD, and Sebastian Svalin, who was formerly of the band In Mourning, which is fantastic, progressive, melodic death metal. I don't know, they're just an awesome band. And he's also in Letters from the Colony, which is a pretty cool gent band that is still not in the archives, but, whatever. And guitar-wise, all right, it's still very similar. Like, all right, all the writing on here, I'm pretty sure was once again handled by Jonas. And it sounds like Katatonia. It is dark, it's gloomy, it definitely has a lot of like progressive textures to it. But this album, compared to Sky Void of Stars, is just very different overall. I feel like Jonas was trying to branch out in a lot of different directions on here, but still also retain the Katatonia sound that we've been so used to for years. And the results are definitely interesting. Like the opening track, Thrice, comes in with some of the heaviest riffs I have heard from, Katatonia in years, and then immediately shrinks back down into sultry crooning. Jonas just does it so fucking beautifully. Soft synth textures, really interesting, like polyrhythmic drum patterns. There's a lot of crazy, like off-time stuff. And in fact, the drum performance, the rhythm section in general.
Yeah. They've got it on lock. The drums and the bass together. The bass playing on here, I don't remember hearing bass playing quite like this on really any other Katatonia record. Like it didn't stand out as much. Normally it was just there, always very solid. But in this case, there are lots of great little like bass runs and licks, and the rhythm section, though, it's on lock. Those guys are on point 100%. And the drum work on this album, at least to me, sounds far more intricate than any other Katatonia record. Like, you get little specks kind of closer to what, like, say, Martin Axelrod of Opeth would do. Like, don't get me wrong, there's no, like, double kick, there's no blast beats going on, but everything has this bigger, like, proggier vibe to it.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know, I wouldn't say, like, fluid. It kind of moves around like smoke in a room with, like, you know, drafty kind of, like, points that kind of just shifts around a lot. This is different in terms, again, of like the songwriting approach that it was on the last album, where the last album, I mean, Katatonia knows how to write a hooky chorus. That's no secret. But here, this is more about like transitions and more like intricacies in the songwriting. Like, there's tons of transitions in these songs. And in fact, you know, it almost kind of like changes their songwriting style, like outright. Like the tone, the vibe, the production, like all the stuff that, you know, you've kind of gotten used to Katatonia for is still there. It's just the songwriting is just very different. Like, there are a lot of like very strange shifts into sections where you think it's going to be the big chorus hook, but it's more of a pre-chorus. And then it doesn't necessarily always have a chorus. In fact, some of these songs, I'd be hard pressed to tell you what the chorus was, because there are these frequent big soaring moments of melody that shrink back down to, you know, quiet, more somber moments. And, you know, Katatonia has done pretty much both kinds of choruses there, like big, soaring, epic, hooky choruses to, like, you know, quiet, more subdued ones. And it's really hard to tell in here because these songs, I don't know, they're very off-kilter and cattywampus. Like the first couple of tracks, Thrice and Lilac, again, like a lot of like interesting transitions into like up-tempo material and then shrinking it back down to like more like synth-laden passages, but the transitions happen very abruptly. Like, there's a lot of moments on here where I feel like if they kind of like took a riff for a walk a little bit and kind of cement that hook, which they did brilliantly on the last album, I feel like, you know, some of these songs would kind of catch you a little bit more.
I found a lot of the transitions to be just straight out teases, because most of the time when a transition happens, it's got this big gnarly riff in it, and you're like, okay, this is going to build into something cool. And then that riff never happens, and then it just cuts back to going slow again. And that happens all the time. I'm talking like 95% of the time, you're like, oh shit, this is going to be cool. And then it doesn't happen.
Yeah, whereas like Sky Void of Stars was definitely built around big chorus hooks. Like, honestly, I think they had some of like their catchiest choruses in years. And everything felt like it was building towards those moments. These songs, I don't know necessarily what they're building towards. Like Thrice, at least towards the end, builds to this big breakdown. And honestly, it's pretty heavy. It's a good, long, drawn-out build, too. Like, you get a lot more atmosphere. You know, the riffs kind of get a little bit more intense as it goes on. But as the album goes on, you get a lot more of these, like, jagged, more technical transitions. And, you know, maybe that is the whole, like, trying to make this sound a little bit more proggy. Like, it is definitely a different album, but I don't know, it still 100% feels like, you know, Katatonia. Like, Wind of No Change, lead-off single, honestly, might be one of the darkest songs I've heard from Katatonia here in, you know, recent memory. Like, not just like, oh, it's dark and gloomy and depressing. Duh, it's Katatonia. There's no smiles allowed in Katatonia. It's all just weeping and depression and a rain cloud that perpetually follows the band as they walk around Sweden. But this one felt darker, more sinister. Like, hell, there's a whole praise Satan or hail Satan in the song. I haven't heard Jonas talk about Satan in, it's been a long time, if ever, honestly.
20 years, maybe?
Yeah.
If he does, it's in the early material, before they found this crooning portion of their career.
But even at that point, they were still sad.
Yeah. Now, we don't want to say that all these big changes have meant a complete departure from their sound, because that's not true at all. There are still very Katatonia moments on this record. Lilac, I think, is one of the most Katatonia-sounding songs on the whole album. It's a whole lot more straightforward. It's definitely vocal-driven. There's a big chorus going on there. What's still odd about that chorus is, though, is it doesn't repeat. It just happens the one time. The only time a chorus repeats really is temporal.
And yeah, the choruses are generally like a big part of Katatonia sound. In fact, to the point where like even the verses will start being like a little bit less. Like, you know, like there's a lot of songs that would say that, you know, on the last couple of albums are choruses, just for the majority. Like you get two verses, you know, and you know, in between there, like the chorus and then like a bridge refrain and then a longer drawn out chorus towards the end. This, to its credit, does kind of break out of that pattern, but what it's replaced with are songs that feel like you had a lot of really good, clever, just solid melodies, good gothic, dreary hooks, but it's the assembly of the songs. The assembly of the songs makes them feel, you know, a little off kilter. Like some of them are kind of hard to follow in terms of like, you know, navigating where the melody goes. Like where a lot of the songs will start, you're kind of left guessing where they're going to go, which, you know, that's kind of a fun appeal to like more progressive music. But at the same time, this band knows how to write hooks. And I was kind of looking for that coming off of what I would say is one of their catchiest albums.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle, but the picture on the puzzle is just a gray sky. That's it. and there are edge pieces, but it's all gray. So good luck. And the band stitched it together, so I mean it works. But that's kind of how it is piecing this album together at times.
And it isn't as though I think like these songs are like bad. Like they still find really just good catchy moments on here. And I think a lot of it comes at the softer points, like Departure Trails. Departure Trails is smooth melancholia. It is like AM gold for really, really depressed people. It's cleaner, it's softer, it doesn't necessarily get particularly heavy. This awesome, like, syncopated groove that carries it out there, and these beautiful, clean guitars, and of course, you know, it's just crooning on there. The song feels like, you know, kind of like something that would have appeared on the last album. It's a little bit more straightforward. And again, like, it's just driven by melody, and it's not trying to be, like, needlessly complex. Because, you know, I like the fact that this band is still somewhat progressive and maybe to an extent has gotten more progressive over the years. But when you're writing songs that are built on, like, big, straightforward hooks, you don't want to like kind of like teeter off that too much. Like, because sometimes when this is a little bit more complex, like when they do like an off time moment or like throw in a riff accent that just feels slightly out of place, it kind of derails the hook, because they'll even do that on choruses too when they show up, which again, it's kind of hard to figure out when they do.
And we keep saying proggy, and the band definitely has had proggy elements throughout their career, especially from, say, The Great Cold Distance onward. The song The Light Which I Bleed is probably one of the most proggy things I think this band has ever written. It's got a whole ton of parts to it. It's got some really cool grooves, but it has like a 70s prog feel, especially in the synth tones that they used. Got reminded of like Deep Purple. And again, I keep saying Opeth, but the last Opeth record, that's kind of what I hear going on in here. It's got some great melodies to it, and it's got this really big build that ends. Fades out, done, over. Why?
Yeah, the end of the song, I mean, it felt like we're getting like into like a heavy bridge section. And again, the way the song's constructed, it's these interesting sections that do weave together pretty well. In fact, like the opening of it kind of sounded like Robin Trower a little bit. Like this cool hi-hat groove and this kind of like scratchy, bluesy guitar. It's great. But it was building into like these, you know, different sections. You know, you had some more up-tempo stuff. It was becoming a little bit more intense. And then it gets down to this, what I call like big gothic heavy section. And I was like, all right, this is like
here we go.
The start to something really gnarly here. And then it started fading out. It's a long fade out too. It was like, wait, where are you going?
Both of us were like,
where are you going?
What?
Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving already? And there are still points in here where I feel like this might have been like Rent's like solo offering, or like stuff that it was kind of like bleeding into like different projects. Like Efter Solen, which is the only song entirely in Swedish. It is beautiful synth pop. It is a gorgeous, lush song that is predominantly electronic. You have like these, you know, stuttered electronic rhythms that come in. It's got like a good synthy pulse to it, and his vocals on there are absolutely beautiful, much like they are on any other track in here. But this feels, I don't know, kind of out of place. Like it still has the whole melancholic vibe of, you know, Katatonia, but it feels like something that probably would have been best served for like a solo project or something outside of it, because it sounds more like Crosses or like Arstadir. Stuff like that.
It could end up on a Katatonia B-sides jam, or when they do a bunch of remixes like they did for Night is the New Day when they did that whole remix album. It sounds like something that could show up on there.
And speaking of bonus tracks, this also has some bonus tracks that were really interesting. Now, first off, I'm going to preface this with I'm not a Kiss fan. I don't know all their stuff. I know like greatest hits shit. That's about it. But if you had told me that Katatonia was going to do a Kiss cover and a song from Music from the Elder, which is among, Kiss's most divisive albums, I would have been like, dude, get the fuck out of here. And I would have been wrong. I would have been dead wrong because they cover A World Without Heroes and it's good.
Yeah.
It's spot on with the original. I mean, I prefer Jonas over Gene's vocals, but whatever. Gene did a fine job back then. But oddly, it fits the whole tone of the album, like in terms of like a Kiss cover. Like if they did like Detroit Rock City, we're like, dude, you're entirely too happy.
Get out.
No, this is cool song and all. You shouldn't be covering it. But I thought that was an interesting bonus track. And then this has a very electronica remix of Wind of No Change, which features, I believe, Karen Park, who was on the last Ocean album. And I believe she's an indie, like, electronic artist. And it's a pure party drugs mix, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's take some pills and look at my hands, and they're both goldfish weird. Oh, my God.
Yeah. That's the vibe. A lot of, like, pulsating electronic stuff, like, kind of dubstep-ish rhythms towards the end. It's odd. I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is like trying to, go for like a pop appeal or a modern appeal or whatever, but
no.
It was interesting, but it kind of fits with this album being, I don't know, just strange. Like it just feels a little off kilter. Like, maybe these songs need to be hammered out a little bit more so they float a bit better. Again, it isn't as though that they're bad. It's just they feel, I don't know, again, like just like puzzle pieces forced to fit. Like you just punched at them.
Like playing the game perfection, except you only have 30 seconds instead of a minute, and all the pieces look the same, but the holes aren't.
Yeah, so overall, man, I didn't necessarily hate it, but at the same time, like this felt off to me. And I initially was at a 3.5, but honestly, I'm more towards a 3 on this. It's still good. I would still probably come back to this. I just feel like, I don't know, they reached too far in a lot of this material and try to stitch together a lot of like colliding ideas. Like, some of these songs want to soar and then get right back down in the dumps in like a few seconds. There's not a lot of breathing room on here, which is surprising because there's like some more instrumental sections. But even then, I feel like they cut off points a little too soon. Like, some of these riffs don't have room to breathe for them to like, be catchy and stick in your brain. And that even goes with like the choruses and such. Like, I love Jonas Rentz. Like, I think he's just an absolutely amazing singer. He's like dreary ASMR for metalheads. I absolutely love it. But even here, I feel like, those moments get cut off too in favor of, again, like transitioning into something that feels, I don't know, just like a little bit off. But, I mean, still, if you're a longtime Katatonia fan overall and you want to hear them get a little bit more progressive, check this one out. I mean, also, if you're an Opeth fan, the two are pretty much linked forever. Check this one out, too. I think it's decent, but, I mean, they've definitely done better in the past.
I'm also going to go ahead and give it a 3. It's okay. Like, I like it, but it's oddly stitched together. And the standout tracks are not kind of what I thought they would be, pretty much because of how they're set up. Like, there are so many moments where you're like, this is going to be awesome, and then it isn't. And then there's so many moments where you're like, this is okay, but then it ends up being awesome. It's really kind of weird. Overall, the record has more of like a crunchy tone to it. It's got a less polished sound on it too, which I think kind of leads more to that 70s prog vibe that is really kind of all over this record. The drums are more active, but I'm telling you, the rhythm section has it on lock. Pretty much like the whole back half of the record, I thought was really solid. But overall, it's not bad. It's just a different side of Katatonia, and I miss those big chorus hooks. Granted, you don't want to do the same thing for every album, but at the same time, there are things that I was expecting that I just didn't get, and while that's not a bad thing, I miss them. But still, overall, if you're a fan of Katatonia, you're probably going to want to check this out. It's still Katatonia. It's just got some new surprises and some twists and turns that you probably weren't expecting. Also, if you're into bands like, of course, Opeth, The Ocean, especially newer Ocean, you're probably really going to like this, so check it out for yourself.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you were new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They're only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we will probably do one, well, a little bit later. We're going to do our Maryland Death Fest recap over on Gas Bass and Hand Grenades channel on Saturday, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we want to get that out of the way before we do another members-only stream. But trust me, that stream's coming. Anyway, memberships are the main way to support the channel. We also still have our, store, thrallsofmetal.com, with our t-shirts and hats. That is linked down below. And there's also a join button down there if you'd like to join up and become a member of this channel so we can talk about all of Musk and Trump's tweets together. Oh my God, what an ugly breakup. It's amazing to be an American right now. No, I'm kidding. It's fucking not. It's terrible being an American right now.
And even if you don't hit the button, that's cool. We're probably still going to talk about it anyway, because I guarantee it's going to be all over the internet for the next month or two. Probably something that will affect the state of the world as we move forward. But anyway, yeah, even if you don't hit it, that's cool. We just do all this stuff all the time for you guys because we appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of this channel. Tons of stuff coming your way. Album reviews, discography rankings. We got the new segment that goes in tandem with the discography rankings, the Thralls Greatest Hits, Nick's Never-Ending Collection updates, States of Metal, is it metal, is it not metal, all the time. It's what we do for you guys because we appreciate you being here. Thank you for being a part of Thralls of Metal.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. So one more big thank you because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.